Hey guys, welcome to Starting Artist Courses, your all-in-one online music education resource. I'm Gene Sinclair, one of the drum instructors here, and today we are going to go over a potential drum part for the Christmas tune, Little Drummer Boy. So this song originated in the 40s, and there's been a million renditions of it. Some are just on the snare drum, like a marching band type of thing. Others are big rocking around the toms. Others have certain Latin or African rhythms that are thrown to it. We're just going to focus on one today. And the chart I will be referencing is the one that Duet put out for the guitar version of this. So everything I'm going to be playing here is going to be based to that track at 68 BPM. So the first thing that we're going to do for this beat is just get our quarter note on the kick. So we're just going to do a 4 on the floor for this one. All else fails, this is going to be the core of our beat here. Perfect. So we have our quarter note. Perfect. All right. Even if that's all we were able to do for this song, like that is definitely enough, I think. But we're going to try adding some other pieces too. So the part 2 to this, if you will, is going to be adding the hi-hat then on the off beats, okay? So if our quarter note bass drum is going 1, 2, 3, 4, the hi-hat is going to do a chick on the end of 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4. If we're not that good with our hi-hat yet, that's okay. This is by no means essential, but if you want to give this a shot, let's hear what this sounds like. Okay, so now we are going to introduce our snare drum. Everything that we've been doing so far has been 8th note based, right? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so now on the of 1 and the of 3. So that means we are now entering 16th note world. 1 E and 2 E and We are going to put a snare drum hit on the of 1 and the of 3. With everything together, it's going to sound like this. All right, so that's the core right there. That feels really good, just as is. But we're going to spice it up a little bit, Christmas spice it up, right? And we're going to add some toms to it, okay? So we got a rack tom up here, we got a floor tom down here. So what I'm thinking is, I think it would sound good if on the end of 2, along with the hi-hat. So since our hi-hat's playing the offbeat anyway, whenever we're going to hit these toms here, it'll line up with the hi-hat. So there's never going to be an instance where the toms are going to play without a hi-hat for this step. So we're going to have the rack tom be on the end of 2, and we're going to have the floor tom be on the end of 4. So just isolated, it's going to be like this. So now let's take a look at the toms with the hi-hat, with the snare and bass drum now. Put it all together. I think that is an all-around really just good feel. It's not too busy, but it's also maybe not just... That's a really appropriate feel, especially when you're playing this song at a slower tempo like 68 BPM. That extra movement using the 16th notes gives it some pulse and direction without just kind of having to drag on a little bit. Now we can definitely take it a few steps further, and I will show you just some things that you can do to make that maybe a little bit more advanced. I also want to touch on when we were going over the rack tom and the floor tom line up with the hi-hat, that's going to be on the 8th notes, right? While I was just playing it now, I realized how tricky it sometimes is when you're doing the snare drum on the of 1 and the of 3 because your hi-hat is on the 8th note just prior. So if you are finding yourself playing and your snare drum is lining up with your hi-hat, there's an issue because that means that your snare drum is either playing on an 8th note or that your hi-hat is being moved to the 16th note, okay? So there's going to be no overlap between your hi-hat and your snare, just the hi-hat and the toms. So here are a few more ideas that you can do to make this groove perhaps maybe a little bit more advanced. Again, I think it's pretty interesting as is, but if we want to just add a little extra flair, here's some things you can do. So when we're hitting our 8th notes on the and of 2 and the and of 4, what if we just added an extra 16th notes on the afterwards? So with the snare drum, as opposed to also, it doesn't have to be that groove for the entire song. You can just throw in those little extra 16th notes hits when you want, like this. You can also look for other gaps where there is room for 16th notes to be played, not just rested. So here would be some examples of throwing in some toms in different places than what we've already have touched on. I think that's important to use subtly. I would still definitely keep the main core through all of that and then only add that on certain occasions because your job as a drummer is to keep a steady groove and provide some sort of consistency while the lyrics are able to come through. Clearly, you don't want to be distracting. And then there's also some big key moments in this song where crash cymbals would be super applicable. So, for example, after the phrase, me and my drum, would be a really good point to really then accentuate that lyric and that part of the song. So here is what this groove would sound like with some crashes on the core note. Now you can use just one hand on it, like this, or we can use both because our count 1 is only being played on the bass drum, which means we have 2 free open hands. So if you really want to smash into them, you can both hit your ride and your crash. So I'll do an example with hitting both. Again, be subtle and use the cymbals sparsely. You don't want to have every single measure have. Now, unless of course you were playing with a group and you guys are really rocking it up, but I would use that wisely because the more you hit the cymbal, the less noticeable it is. You really have to think of when are the appropriate times to be your loudest. So that concludes our holiday drum lesson on the song Little Drummer Boy. Make sure to check out our other instructors' lessons on this song, and you can find that stuff throughout our YouTube channel, so be sure to like and subscribe. Also, check out our website, starvingartistcourses.com, where you can find more drum lessons, guitar lessons, keys, vocals. We got it all. Thank you guys for checking out the video. My name is Dean Sinclair with Starving Artist Courses, and I hope you have a happy holiday.